Noah and Celeste, who were 7 and 5 years old respectively, lived with their mother, father, and grandmother. Their place was well off the beaten path, otherwise known as out in the boonies. It was a huge horse farm. Their gravel driveway was at least a quarter of a mile long from the main road, which is also where their nearest neighbor was. They were middle-class folk, just going to work, making a living, keeping food on the table and the bills paid, occasionally having some fun. Being raised on such a large property, Noah became very adventurous, fishing in the pond, hunting wild animals in the woods, and riding dirt bikes across the hills. However, Noah started picking on his younger sister. He would tease her about the way she looked, even though she looked fine. He played pranks on her daily. He would startle her, and he would jump on her and waller around on her until she cried. And no matter what she said or did, his mother couldn't control him. His dad would tame him down a little bit, but eventually he fell back into his wild and unruly behavior. Wait, this sounds kind of familiar. One time, just before Christmas, their mom took them to see Santa to give him their Christmas lists. Celeste went first. She was adorable. She meekly told him what she would like, but she had a qualification for his delivery. She stated,
"If it's going to be too much for the reindeer to carry, don't bring them. I'll understand."
The whole interaction was nothing less than angelic. The entire room was completely filled with happiness and joy. It kind of makes you want to go, "Aww." Then Hurricane Noah happened. Getting eager and impatient, Noah quickly walked past the helper elf and over to Santa. He forcefully shoved Celeste off Santa's lap and said, "My turn." He hopped up on Santa's lap before Santa could say anything. Brushing it off, Santa maintained his professional composure and continued. Santa asked, "What's your name, little boy?" Noah looked at Santa puzzled.
"Don't you know? You're Santa Claus."
Santa spotted his helper elf behind Noah, holding up a piece of paper that said Noah. That was pretty slick. Santa looked at the boy, smiled, and said in a low, confident tone, "Noah." He replied, "Okay, you got that right, but I gotta make sure," as he pulled on Santa's beard hard. "Ow!" Santa yelped. A big smile came over Noah's face. He ecstatically said, "It's not fake. You are Santa. Finally. I had to make sure. There's so many fake ones out there." Santa patiently inquired, "What would you like for Christmas, Noah?" Noah reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. He unfolded it and cleared his throat. He began reeling off several things in rapid-fire succession. Noah paused for a second. Thinking he was done, Santa shifted and looked up at his helper elf. Noah took a deep breath and turned the paper over and continued through his checklist. After a few minutes of auctioneer-like listing, he mercifully stopped. "Spoiled brat much?" He hopped down and turned back towards Santa with one more dictate. He shook his index finger at Santa and demanded, "I want everything wrapped with a bow and ribbon and a name tag. You need to quit leaving things unwrapped. Stop being so lazy." Everyone pointed out Noah's extreme rudeness towards Santa. He needs stronger discipline. Noah's mom was deeply embarrassed and ashamed. Too much for Santa to tolerate, he finger motioned Noah to come closer. With a smirk on his face, Noah got up very close to Santa's face. He's about a smug little punk, ain't he? Santa said, "I'm putting you on the naughty list, Noah, which means I will not be visiting you this year. But someone else will." Noah arrogantly replied, "If not you, then who? Frosty the Snowman?" Santa gave a slightly creepy laugh and said, "No, Krampus." At that point, Noah's mom grabbed Noah's arm and apologized to Santa for her son's disrespectful remarks. Santa nodded and winked at her with a twinkle in his eye. Then turned to Noah with a "remember what I said" face. A little creeped out from Santa's sudden change in demeanor, he slowly turned and walked away. Dude, you do not mess with Santa. Later that night, as his grandmother was tucking him in, Noah asked her, "G-Ma, who is Krampus?" She gave him a concerned look and wondered, "How do you know about Krampus?" "Santa told me that I'm on the naughty list, and he wasn't going to come this year, but he's sending Krampus instead." His G-Ma's facial expression changed. It went from curious to deeply worried. Noah noticed it. "You know what he's talking about, don't you?" "Yes, I do." Who is he?" Reluctantly, she said, "He's a huge, ugly, half-goat, half-demon creature. He's covered in long, dirty, knotted hair, usually brown or black, and has cloven hooves and horns like a huge goat. His long, pointed tongue rolls out of his mouth like a snake, and he has huge fangs." Surprised, Noah exclaimed, "Are you serious?" "Absolutely. My G-Ma told me, and her G-Ma from the old country told her." Listen to G-Ma, Noah. "Krampus carries chains around his neck. He thrashes them about loudly to scare little children into behaving. If that doesn't work, he also carries a bundle of birch branches that he uses to swat bad little kids until they're nice. And rarely, but sometimes as a last resort, Krampus takes the sack off his back and stuffs evil little children in it and carts them off." With his voice cracking badly and nearly in tears, he asked, Well, where does he take them?" G-Ma looked around slowly and in a mysterious tone said, "Nobody knows for sure. Some say he drowns them. Some say he eats them. And some say he takes them to hell and tortures them." Noah's face turned to utter horror, with tears dripping down the sides of his face. She stood up to leave, and Noah grabbed her arm.
What do I need to do to keep him from coming for me? Start being nice to everybody. Help your parents anytime you can. Don't be selfish and be kind to the less fortunate.
With that, she said goodnight and closed his bedroom door. It took a long time for him to go to sleep. I'll bet that's not exactly a bedtime story. After a couple of hours, he finally did. The next morning, he woke up and made himself a bowl of cereal and a glass of orange juice for the first time ever. After he ate, he cleaned his bowl, spoon, and cup and put them away. Also a first, I'm sure. He was curious to see what Krampus looked like, so he searched for it on his laptop. When he found some pictures, his eyes opened wide and he quickly slammed his laptop shut. After beholding the horrible depictions of Krampus and hearing the terror-filled tale told by his grandma, Noah turned over a new leaf. He started behaving his parents to the T. He also started being very nice and protective of his younger sister. He completely changed his personality and became a very good boy. So he was scared straight, basically. Fast forward a little. It's now Christmas Eve. Noah and Celeste opened the one gift they're allowed on that day. Noah got a pair of stomp racers. He was so excited, he started playing with them immediately. Celeste got a Kitty's Own smartwatch. They were both ecstatic with their gifts. That's actually some pretty good loot right out of the gate. It got a little later and it was time to go to bed. They dutifully went to their rooms and prepared to go to sleep. As G-Ma was once again tucking Noah in, he asked,
G-Ma, do you think Santa will change his mind about coming? I'm sure of it. You've got nothing to worry about.
Relieved, he closed his eyes as his G-Ma left the room. Later on, while he was sleeping, he awoke to a noise outside the house. It sounded like jingle bells. Thinking it must be Santa, he slowly got up to peek out the window. He couldn't see anything, but he heard something else. It sounded like a low, guttural growl. He was sure this wasn't Santa. Unless Santa's got a dog with him. He slowly backed away from the window, quaking in fear. He started breathing heavily. He took a few deep breaths and calmed himself down. He looked again. He heard the jingling sound again and realized it wasn't jingle bells at all. It was chains rattling. Uh-oh. Then he saw the back of it. It was covered in hair, walking on two giant-sized goat legs, and had a long tail. It was Krampus.
But why?
He thought.
I've been so good.
Nevertheless, he had to hide.
If Krampus can't find me, I'll be okay.
He figured. Okay. He quickly looked around his room. There were very few places to hide. He had to think fast.
The closet? No, everybody hides there.
Time was running out. He could hear the clomps of its hooves on the wood floor, and the chains were much clearer now. Krampus was in the living room, stalking around. Noah looked left, then right, then decided on hiding in the chest at the foot of his bed. He hurriedly opened the chest. He had to throw out some blankets to make room. He hopped in the chest and quietly closed the lid. Right as the lid closed, he heard his doorknob jiggle slightly. He got an idea for a backup plan in case he was discovered. He grabbed a sheet from within the chest and pulled it over himself. He could hear his bedroom doorknob turn. The door squeaked open slowly. Noah wanted to scream, but knew he had to stay absolutely silent. He put his hands over his mouth to help. He quietly listened as he heard the slow clomps of Krampus's hooves walking through his bedroom. He jumped a little as he heard the sound of Krampus's switches whacking different objects in his room. He heard his closet door open forcefully. Then, more thuds of huge hooves on his floor. Krampus picked up his clothes hamper and flung it to the side. Another low growl echoed through the room. Then, the plodding sounds started fading off. He did it. He evaded Krampus. He was about to open the lid and climb out when the chest unexpectedly burst into a million pieces. A loud roar filled the air. Noah's about to become a Krampus snack. Thinking fast, he remembered a magic trick he saw on YouTube and put his plan B into action. He threw the sheet that was concealing him straight up in the air and raced for the door. That was pretty smart. This only momentarily delayed Krampus as he rapidly looked left and right. While running for the front door, he screamed for his mom and dad for help. Help! His dad heard it and jumped from the bed and bolted out of the bedroom. When he got to the hallway, he met Krampus face to face. He drew back to punch Krampus, but Krampus swiftly backhanded his father. He went flying down the hallway and crashed into the wall. Slumping over, he was knocked out cold. Nevertheless, it stalled Krampus enough for Noah to get outside. Keep going, dude. Meanwhile, Santa was delivering gifts to nearby children when he got a notification on his phone that Krampus was trying to punish a good boy. This was a Red Code 1 emergency. He completely stopped his deliveries and followed the GPS in his sleigh as fast as it would go. He spotted Noah's house and nosedived down to it. As he was about to land, he saw Noah running for his life, with Krampus right behind him. Santa landed his sleigh between Krampus and Noah. Oh, here we go. It's on now. Krampus stopped his pursuit and stared at Santa intently. Santa got out of his sleigh and advised Krampus,
This boy's no longer on the naughty list. He's a good young man now. Leave him alone."
Krampus snarled. "I don't care. He was a bad boy at one time and needs to be punished for it. Besides, I'm bored." Santa bowed up on Krampus.
"You heard what I said, goat boy. Get out of here now and leave this boy alone, or do I have to remind you again who the boss is?"
Noah had ran off and hid behind a tree, peeking around it, watching the confrontation. Krampus roared loudly and charged at Santa. "Let's get it on!" Santa stepped to one side and grabbed Krampus's horns and body slammed him hard into the snow. The ground shook from the impact. Krampus's eyes turned dark red, and he let out another thunderous yell. He bum rushed Santa back into a tree, nearly knocking it over. Santa clenched his fists together and began pummeling Krampus in the back. After several solid blows, Krampus rose up and took a swipe at Santa. Santa ducked back and in one fluid move headbutted Krampus in the nose. Looks like Santa knows a little bit of martial arts. Krampus howled in pain. Blood was flowing steadily out of his nose. Krampus backed up a few steps, shook his head, and took a defensive position. Santa also backed up a few steps, then scrambled towards Krampus. When he was about 10 feet away, Santa jumped up high in the air and hit Krampus with a giant Superman punch. Stunned, Krampus immediately felt the effects of the Super Santa Slobberknocker. Yes, that's what I'm calling it. He stumbled backwards, lost his balance and fell, but got right back up. Hit him again. Noah wanted to help, so he picked up a large stick and threw it at Krampus. All he's going to do is end up pissing Krampus off. It hit him in the back, and Krampus whipped his head around. Noah, with his hands on his hips, just smiled at Krampus. "Noah, don't get cocky." Then, out of nowhere, Santa drop-kicked Krampus in the back, sending him flying through the air. A nearby shed broke his fall. Well, sort of. Krampus let out a pitiful whine and scampered off into the woods. Santa could be a professional wrestler. "Ooh yeah, dig it!" Noah ran over to Santa and gave him a big hug. He looked up at Santa teary-eyed and thanked him for saving him from Krampus. When Santa looked down at him and smiled, Noah recognized him. He was the Santa he gave the Christmas list to earlier when he sat on his lap. Santa says,
"Noah, I have something for you,"
and walked over to his sleigh. He reached into his bag and pulled out a Slacker skyboard. It was the most wanted item on Noah's wish list. He didn't get anything else on his list. However, the skyboard was more than enough. On top of that, he didn't get punished, eaten, or dragged to hell, so all in all, he was very grateful for what he received. He also had a big juicy piece of humble pie. As Santa was about to leave, he leaned down and told Noah in a stern tone, "You have to promise to be good all year long. You understand?" Oh, I totally will. I don't want to ever have to go through that again, swore Noah. At that time, Santa touched his nose and up the chimney he rose. The young man was good each year after that, until he grew up to be a responsible man. He ended up falling in love, getting happily married, and having kids of his own. Noah looked down, smiled at his kids, and said, "And that's a Christmas I'll never forget. Merry Christmas! Ho, 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 ho. Ho, 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 ho."